Joining us is an infectious diseases specialist, Dr. Abdul-Jalil Tafawa Balewa. He joins us from our Abuja studios. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Millicent.
All right. Now, let's begin with looking at the epidemiological report from the NCDC. From April, since the first index case, to what we have now, the latest report as at the 22nd of June, there's been a huge difference, and this is in a lot of areas. What would you say we've learned about the coronavirus so far?
It's what we haven't learned. There's so much we haven't learned. I don't want to get overly excited in that now we're getting the figures much lower coming in. The last few days it's been close to 700, and last night I believe it was under 500. We should not think that we're on the other side of the bell curve as yet. We will wait to see what happens in the next few days. But if it is true that we're going down, we should thank our lucky stars and hope we continue in that trajectory. However, testing is still very, very, very small in Nigeria. We have 117,565. That's about 10% of what the United States has done, over 1,300,000, considering that we're only about 2/3 of the United States population. We're way behind our sister countries, even in ECOWAS, like Ghana. We need to double up on our testing, because I think there may be people that, one, may be infective but may not be symptomatic. Some may even be symptomatic, but we're in the season of malaria already, and that can be there can be a mix-up there. We need to have a lot more testing.
Looking at the infection rate, you mentioned symptomatic, asymptomatic. I mean, we've heard the Minister of Health say most of the cases, community transmission, 80% are asymptomatic. And then the World Health Organization believes that the asymptomatic persons can transmit, but says research is still ongoing. How are we arriving at the level of our infection rate with the data on community spread as, you know, largely responsible by those that are asymptomatic?
It's very important for us to understand some things. When they say that somebody is asymptomatic, that person has been tested and the person is positive, their immune system is holding them and holding up very well, but they could be infective but not symptomatic. Somebody that's never been tested, you will never know whether they're infected or not if they've never been tested. It is very critical. When we just throw words around, it's important that even though we have about 60% of our population that can be regarded as educated and literate, all these large words need to be broken down so that they can understand, and people will be able to go to the different hospitals or commissaries nearby to get tested. If you have exposure, and the only way that you will know is if somebody around you has tested positive, then you need to go and find out if you are positive or not. The community transmission that we're seeing now, a long time ago, they used to think it was just for the rich. When you interview a lot of Nigerians, they'll say, oh, it's people who travel out, and I haven't traveled anywhere. I have been in Nigeria all the time. However, these people have people that work for them. and they have people that know people that work for them. Imagine a few weeks ago, when the Almajiris were being moved around, some Almajiris went into Kaduna, about 10% of them were infected. How can that be possible? They've never traveled anywhere. However, they're always in contact with people in places where they will be able to get their daily bread. Like the mosque is where the people that may have been infected go to. Now, if they just move around, not knowing what their status is, that's very dangerous for the entire population. And
Dr.
until
Tafar Balewa,
we get more testing done, yes.
Infection rate still hasn't peaked in many countries, and that includes Nigeria. When will we be able to tell?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we have something called a bell curve, which is like a hump of a camel. Knowing that you've been hearing this expert saying it is still rising. However, when we get to a peak, you will know, because we will constantly be having fewer and fewer infections until it gets almost to the the asymptotic point of where we started out with our index cases, and that's still some time in the future.
All right, we'd like to thank you, an infectious diseases specialist, Dr. Abdul Jalil Tafar Balewa. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.